Saved. Perfect. I think I'm all set up now. I think.
Okay, lovely.
So that's that. So let's have a quick look. And everyone's in. Hello, guys. I hope you're all doing well. If you are new here as well, even if you're still here as well, please do like the video as well. Helps support the channel. I hate saying it, but it is one of those things. Quickly, we've got Kevin as well. So hey, guys, I care. Thank you, Kev. Dog Party, Life Studios here. Life is Strange, never heard of it. Agree as well. KJL, I'm very good now watching you. I appreciate it. And then we have Macaulay92. What's going on? Webb was laid off. Yes, Webb was laid off, and hence why we are here recording this. So, yeah, if you are new
Yeah.
here as well, guys, please do drop a subscribe and turn notifications, like the video, share your friends, help support the channel, and obviously help support the live stream as it's going on. And we'll try and keep in contact with you whilst we talk about this. So obviously this is Fireside with an A&A. We had actually planned to do it at some point this month, and it's back now. VOD versions will come from this, but at the moment I am backlogged really badly. So the live stream version will be available on YouTube, so you can just go back and watch it whenever you want. But the VOD versions will come, and me and Abby are also planning to send this into a live stream podcast. So it's going to be once a month where we have a bit more structure, because obviously I know it's in the Patreon tier as well, where you can ask questions, but this is kind of dedicated to this piece of news that's just happened. So yeah, basically that's where we're at. So obviously, if you are new here, I'm Adnan. I co-host this podcast with Abby. Abby's here. Hello, Abby.
Hello. Yeah. I mean, now seemed as good a day as any to have this podcast / live stream.
Indeed, yes. So obviously we are talking about Webb Pickersgill, who was Life is Strange Before the Storm's co-director. He was Life is Strange True Colors' performance director. He was also performance director on Life is Strange Double Exposure, and he was recently the Life is Strange co-dev. No, sorry, Life is Strange. He was the co-dev director on the co-dev service that Deck9 had launched earlier this year. And unfortunately, he has confirmed today on the 31st of July, when we are recording, that he has been laid off from Deck9. And I will, let the words from the horse's mouth speak for itself. Because as you can see here, that's going to take some getting used to as well for the for the podcast episodes. They've just changed this, and that is crazy. So, Abby, as you can see here, Webb Pickersgill, this was from LinkedIn. This was also the photo. As you can see, a lot of people from the Deck9 motion capture team in the photo. Obviously, if you look front and center, you see Zachary Andrews, who is motion capture director at Deck9 right now. He's the only motion capture director at Deck9 now. Obviously, if you look over there, is my mouse appearing on the screen, Abby?
Yes, it is.
Yes, perfect. So that is Webb Pickersgill there. That is a former Deck9 developer, former performance director on Double Exposure and also True Colors. Obviously, Corwin's there as well. A lot of the key development team that are on the mocap are there. And Webb posted here, as you can see on LinkedIn, he put, "Today is my last day working at Deck9 Games. Very sad the games industry continues to be affected by layoffs, and I'm the latest casualty. I could ramble on about the wonderful projects and list out proud accomplishments, but the thing that got my butt out of the bed in the morning for the past 10 years was my team. All careers have ups and downs, but it was wonderful. But it was this wonderful group of people that made the world go around and made it all worth it. Thank you to Corwin, Canton, Alexis Bloom, Josh Ra, Celia Dufala, Zachary Andrews, Martha Murray, AJ Blair, and the countless wonderful people that have come and gone over the years. And most of all, thanks to Jeff Litchford, who is the he's the co-owner of Deck9, I think the chief executive officer there, for giving me this opportunity 10 years ago and the space to grow my leadership abilities. I don't know entirely what's next, but I know it's going to focus on IT/technology direction or management here in the Denver area. Most importantly, I know I'll find somewhere new that will give me that sense of home." So that
So
was
going back to the IT world.
I know that's too much. I wish he. I don't know if he really wants to go into it or if he's doing it out of this kind of need to go back into it, because he's a very talented man and he's got like incredible cinematography experience and motion capture and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like it's maybe a kind of situation where we have to go back into it for the sake of it. So yeah, that news was broken today, and I am like absolutely devastated reading that news. I hate reporting layoffs as it is. I already had enough with that, with the Don't Nod Montreal team being laid off and many key people in there that I knew. But Webb really, really hurts me a little bit just knowing that as well. I had heard that it could could have been a possibility, and like I genuinely like was dreading the day that it was going to happen, and it happened today, and I was like, oh. And I was like, and I didn't really even know how to react at first. It took me a while to even post the message at first. I was like, oh God. Um, so yeah, Abby, what do you think?
I mean, I'm devastated. It's such a loss for fans of Life is Strange, of course, and for fans of Deck Nine's work and of Webb's work, because, like you said, he has a fantastic cinematography background, fantastic theatrical background, and I really appreciated his style of mocap. I wanted to work with him one day. Hopefully, I'll get to work with him still wherever he goes next. But yeah, and KJL and Life is 2D slash Dog Party Guy are saying here, it feels like every important person left Deck Nine, even the social media manager via Square Enix.
Yeah.
Were there moves today?
No, so it was a social media manager on the North American branch of Square Enix who was laid off recently. They just put a post out there. I don't think they run the Life is Strange Twitter account. I believe that's pretty much Square's London team that will be running that. I imagine they have access to it. They are social media managers and stuff, but I don't think they were necessarily the one person running it. That Twitter account has been very, very quiet though, barring the announcements of the Titan stuff that they just announced recently. Um, and yeah, with Webb as well. Like I think like Webb's a big blow because Webb's like one of the last remaining key developers from the Before the Storm team. Back from that day, Felice Kwan was sacked last year. Um, Zach Garris has left the studio. Webb was one of the key developers, moved into the motion capture side of things and had to do that, and then also has now been laid off. Jonathan Zimmerman is still at the studio. He's like the last remaining kind of like key, long-standing member of Deck Nine's OG Life is Strange team, and I think like it's kind of like I think the writing's on the wall for a lot of things there. I think this news is not something that should kind of be like looked at lightly. You don't just lay off Webb Pickersgill, and you don't just do it as kind of like for the sake of it, because and this is where the corporate world would come into play. You would lay off other people first rather than letting someone with 10 years of game development experience slash development experience at Deck Nine leave first. But with him leaving, it kind of tells you a lot about the landscape of the industry. It tells you why, for example, Microsoft has laid off so many people. It shows why Deck Nine's Don't Nod's been in such a financial constraint and into the development area. And it also shows you where Deck Nine's position is right now, which is obviously rife with speculation among many other things. But I think yeah, it's an interesting thing. I was told I've kind of been in and out of the picture recently because I've had like a really big burnout period and I've not really been doing much. But like when I was speaking to certain people, I was kind of just given the kind of position where it was like basically all hands off, all cards are off tables. Essentially, like I can't remember the phrases. There was a more eloquent way of putting it, but essentially, expect the unexpected, and essentially that's why I've been very cryptic with certain things and not really being open about them or talking about it because I could say it tomorrow and then next day someone says, "Oh, actually that's not happened." But it's like the timeline has changed and everything, like on everything and anything now. So like it's just basically in that position right now with the franchise and with Deck Nine and all the other things as well. It's a lot of moving parts, and that's why I've kind of just been not saying anything because anything could happen and anything else could turn into milk. And yeah, that's where we're at. I think like we just did our Patreon episode, me and Adam as well, and I need to cut parts of that out as well because I think KJL asked us about any rumors and stuff, and I'm like, well,
Mm,
I think the stuff that we just like has happened today has kind of happened. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like we can take that out there. But yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that's happened, and I think you don't have to be. You just need to look at what's in the public domain. There's a lot of stuff there that will point you in the right dots with what's about to
agreed.
happen.
And now, what's going to happen with that co-development service? Is that also going with him because he was kind of the key person there?
From where I can stand now, at the moment, yes, it will go with him
Yeah.
because
So
the
they
inter-
must not have been actively working on any projects if he
no, because
left.
you don't lay off your co-development head of service if there was actual any projects because he's the mediator and the middleman on the projects. Because that's his dedicated role. You had two performance directors at Deck Nine. You moved the one who was in the key performance director role in terms of like running the studio, everything else back because Webb was the performance director on the games, but he was also the motion capture director at the studio, so he was overseeing the studio. Like, for example, Zach Andrews is in that photo. Zach Andrews was hired because of Webb Pickersgill. Like, Webb was part of that hiring process, because Webb has talked about that on interviews and stuff. But basically, if you take out your co-development service and you take out the head of the co-development service, that means that there's no one running the co-development service because you can't move the other motion capture director onto it. And the entire point was that Webb was moved onto it so they could kind of lift that service and do it, which again kind of sums up where that's going to be, because they don't have anyone else who can do it. And we did a video on it back in the day, me and Adam, when we were talking about it. It was literally, I said, it was like a roll of the dice moment. If it works in the long term, fantastic. The results are going to be there. You can get motion capture and stuff. But if your service has fallen apart roundabout, was it March or something, it was announced, give or take, and you've just laid off the performance director slash codev service director who's running it in July, I think it tells you a lot about where that service is, which I think it will probably disappear in a couple of days in terms of on the websites and stuff, because I don't know
Yeah.
who's going to be running it then.
That's a real shame because they never really gave it a chance to start. Like, what? It was 4 months between the time of announcement to now. They never really gave that branch of business time to grow.
Yes and no, because you have to imagine they're probably working on things, but the one thing that is very apparent in the industry at the minute is how difficult every studio is operating at the minute in terms of
Yeah.
layoffs, in terms of the industry um, development process, and budgets. Budgets are a big one for game development service, because that's the one that always hits me when people are like, I would love Don't Nod to come back to Life is Strange. I'm like, well, first question is how they're going to buy it, because their cash flow, if you ever looked at their cash flow and their earnings, I'm like, it'll paint you a picture. Secondly, Square Enix would have to decide to sell the IP back to Don't Nod, and they don't have to do that. They could sell it to the highest bidder. They might not even want to sell it to them in the first place. They might just shelf it and keep it on the live. And then, for example, if Don't Nod takes over the IP, who runs it? Is it the Canada team? Do you just throw away all the work on Lost Records? Do you reformat teams and bring Life is Strange into it? You have an IP which is corrosively damaged now, because whether it's Deck Nine or Square Enix or Don't Nod, most casual people will associate any of those three entities with the franchise. Like, most people, and I will say this quite actually openly, most people outside of the niche that care about the franchise don't know the difference between Deck Nine and Don't Nod. They just think that
Yeah.
that's one person making the games, and that's it. They see the Square Enix logo and they like that. Until you become in a fandom, then you start looking at the studios who are making it, the key developers and stuff. Most people don't know that, and I've seen that as well, because I can pretty much point that Luke Bagadost, who is the Don't Nod Montreal studio executive producer, said in an interview for about Lost Records, he was like, most people don't know who Don't Nod is, and it's like, it's true, they don't know. It's this French company. It's like most people might not even know who they are for that. So basically, all those come into play, and then on top of that, and the kind of final point I'm going to make with that is that even if you bring back the Life is Strange IP, the motion capture, the performance direction is so expensive as well, because it's a massive R&D development cost. And then, for example, you saw Don't Nod do motion capture separately compared to with a VO, and you saw, for example, the limitations with Lost Records, where, for example, the audio is out of sync. Like, the facial animations are an issue
Yeah.
again. Lip syncing is again an issue in Lost Records. And then on top of that, and one of the things that I think people don't realize which happens, for example, if you take Olivia Lepore, and so for example, we're acting Abby, right? And you take Webb's technique, so Meisner technique, he uses this a lot, right? Acting is reacting. So I say hello to you, you say hello back to me.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. And it keeps going back and forth. So we keep doing this as a training exercise for Meisner. And then eventually I'm like, I like your hair. And then you're like, I like your hair. So it's repetition and it's repetitive building. So what you're doing is you're building the process of that. So what I'm saying with Lost Records, when Olivia and Andrea are working in a scene, it's fantastic in motion capture because you see the raw, gritty personal experience. But the minute you go into the booth, you've taken away that interaction. So what happens in the dialogue of the game? It's like Andrea's like, "Oh, skate. I'm a skater. It's amazing." And then there's like a weird pause, and then it's like it cuts to Swan, and she's like, "Oh," and she responds. So it's not in real time. It's not in person. So you're not capturing it, and that's a
Right.
big problem as well, because performance capture is so important in the industry. Every game more or less uses it now. that it's so important and ingrained it because they want their actors to be on the sets doing the real time, and VO booth is so difficult to kind of do these projects. Um, but yeah, I think with Webb's position and stuff like that, it's just this is really tragic. I think, and I think I can't see you underplaying this news of how big it is for Deck Nine, Life is Strange, everything. He might not have been involved in Life is Strange right now, but like I think it just tells you if you lay off a key developer, it's a very 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 troubling sign at a studio.
I just feel like they didn't really give that co-development service even a fair shot because can't they find investors or other forms of capital raisings? That's a really unique service and there's a gap in the market. So I'm just surprised that more effort wasn't given to retain it.
Yeah, so
Like,
the problem. No, no, it's a fair point as well because like it's not the necessarily the service isn't appealing to people. The thing is though is that basically the service works in the sense of, and this is what they were doing at GDC when they were talking and pitching to developers and stuff. It's basically you could come to me and I'm running the co-development service and I'm like, cool, we can do the motion capture, we can do the scripting, we can not do all this, and you're like, fantastic, this is amazing, you can bring life to my game. And then I'm like, this is our budget for the motion capture, and then you look at it and you're like, we can't afford this. And it's
yeah.
like, and then all hands on deck, and basically you all walk away from the table. So it's not that the fact that the service isn't appealing, because it is very appealing to a lot of studios. It's the R&D, the capital, the
Budgets.
expenditure.
No,
Yeah,
I will say budgets are really small right now, but there are pools. There are target demographics that maybe they weren't targeting. Like game development studios outside of the US are still
yeah.
rolling and doing stuff. So I don't know.
I think the thing is though as well, I think that would have been the long term vision of like reaching out to studios across the world, getting development done for them, etc. Letting that like long term foundation. But like even in itself, I'm pretty sure like when I spoke to Alex when she was making her game, the independent developer, like even she's been struggling to get some grants and stuff in the UK and whatnot. I think off the top of my head, I saw a recent post that she posted something like that. They're trying to get a grant. Like it is one of those. It's also it's like even those pools of money, as you said as well, the grants could just like disappear overnight. And you're like screwed, and you're like, okay, we can't do this now. So there's a difficulty with that. So yeah, it's a little bit like it's a bit crazy on that front.
Yeah.
Just
Do
quickly
you
checking
think?
as well. Oh, go on.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
No,
Well, I
no.
was just going to say that the social justice themes in Deck Nine's games particularly led to its downfall in this political climate.
Yeah, it impacts everyone. Any studios now reeling on it because even you can use the long scale measurement of like you can put Deck Nine on that, you can put Don't Nod Montreal on it, and you can look at their games. The minute they announce, it's like it's woke, it's this, it's that. Oh, it's got Sweet Baby Ink in it. All the other narratives start playing into it, and then even on an extreme end, if you go even higher end, triple A, the top tier, in Naughty Dog announces it in a Galactic, the first thing it's woke, it's this, it's that, and basically it does it impacts you the minute that you do something like that, and it's like yeah, I think that it does impact. I think it brings the niche down even more. So it's like it's already a niche, Life is Strange, and the minute those labels get thrown onto it, it becomes an even bigger niche. And unless people are willing to buy it who are already in that niche, then it becomes impactful. Let me just quickly go to the chat as well, Abby, because we've got quite a few people in here and you're watching as well. Thank you for joining us as well. You got 17 people watching. If you are here as well, please do like as well. I can only see one like, but that maybe is because I'm not refreshing. So let me quickly look here. Dog Party, I thought they did that whole US date for the anniversary thing anyway. Lena Lena Ren, I suppose. I wonder if this has to do with how double exposure performed. Well, I think this is a whole different animal amid that as well. Dogpile LinkedIn is looking grim, but they do have assigned environment artists, cinematic persons, and etc. KJL is so sad that he's not there anymore. You're telling me, KJL. I'm like devastated. I've not even had time to think of my thoughts here and actually talk about this. Um, let's have a quick look. Dog Party, when the person heading up the co-dev service is laid off, yeah, it's not good. Agreed. And let's have a quick look here. I'm going to leave you guys to it amid yourselves. You got any questions, please do leave it. If you are watching as well, just feel free to ask a question in there. So yes, and also as well, Abby, this was something that Adam pointed out to me, and I did spot it earlier as well. Webb Pickersgill's birthday was yesterday on the 30th of July, and he confirmed today that he's been laid off from Deck Nine on the 31st. And I'm like, there's another kick in the teeth of the video game industry. I'm like, perfect. That's what we needed right now. Just lay him off. Maybe just wait till August and do it or something. Like, not that this makes the situation any better, but yeah, there's your parting gift for your birthday. See you later. And it's like, I feel really kind of like I know I know if Webb was here in terms of the personality and the kind of person he is, he'd be like, it's for business, it's for the better interest of the studio and stuff. But I do think that Deck Nine really needs to hold accountability for this, and especially their CEO and also the key management people, because basically the guy who was already in a secure position running your motion capture studio as it was, you moved him into a co-dev service, an experimental co-dev service. He tried his best and put all his like entire potential into that, and then basically you laid him off from it. And I don't know if anything else explains more of a kick in the teeth than that, which is the fact that you basically the guy who's like been one of your long-standing stewards of the studio, someone who's been a really respectable figure there, very very talented. He would and I wish he would sing his own praises in terms of his talent and ability as a motion capture director and as a game developer. You basically laid him off after 5 or 6 months of doing this new service role, and he basically moved into this role because you needed him more than anything else because no one else could do it. Because if Webb was that kind of stubborn of a person, he could have just turned around and said, I'm not doing this service and go and find someone else, and the project dies right there and then. But instead, he did what he has always done, which is sacrifice his best interest to go and work on another part of the studio, and you decide to lay him off.
Yeah.
I'm pretty melting with like a lot of things. I did want to kind of sit down on the weekend and speak to Adam about it, like really digest my thoughts. But yeah, I have not shown my full like anger and frustration and difficulty of this on Twitter and among many other things, because I think it's just very, very poor form from it. And I've spoken to a lot of people in my lifetime, actors, people who are in and involved around this project, on the record, off the record, and I always ask them about Webb Pickersgill, and it's nothing but praise. And it's always nothing but he is a really, 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 and I'm going to do this in the most British way, sound bloke. That he's just really nice. He's really helpful. He will always give you an ear. Never, never a problematic person. And this is when you speak to people off the record and they're willing to say all kinds of things to you. That like I've had this conversation with people before and they ask me about oh, but maybe they don't want to say it to you. No, people become very transparent with things when you do talk to them about it, and not a single person ever said a bad thing about this guy. And I think it's a testament. And I repeatedly said on Strangecast many, many times that if Deck Nine had more people like Webb Pickersgill in the studio in key positions, they would not find themselves in the position that they're in right now, because that's where they're at right now. That studio is on the verge of collapsing, in my opinion. Where it's at right now, it is on the verge of collapsing. Look at how many developers are there. Look at who's left there. Look at what projects are on there. And you look at the state of it and you're like, yeah, it's heading one direction at this point. And unless it's thrown, a life guard, like one of those things you throw in the, what is it? Like a life? No, it's not a life preserver. What is it?
A
You throw in the what?
buoy?
What's that?
Life a buoy?
Yeah, one of those. You throw that in the water, save someone. If you don't throw that in them, it's game over at this point. And I say that in the most like somber kind of tone, because I I will say as well repeatedly, now I've said this before, Life is Strange existing is very, very important in this industry, and especially, for example, for studios like Don't Nod, because Lost Records receives more momentum boost because of Life is Strange existing and people knowing about it. And when a studio closes down, you shelf an IP. There's only so long Don't Nod can hold on to its reputation as the creators of Life is Strange, because eventually it'll fade into obscurity, and that's a horrible thing to happen. Um, so yeah,
Square Enix also needs to take accountability because many of the decisions that led to the downfall of the franchise are kind of on Square Enix.
well,
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
did I say something that isn't right?
no, it's true, and not many people are willing to say that, but it's like, yeah, of course it is. It's 100% on them. I personally pin it on them, because Deck Nine has its own faults. It has its own issues, but I've said this before. Deck Nine's a contractor, and when someone owns the IP and they own the royal and they run everything with it, they can do whatever they want with it. And I've said this before when people are like, "Oh, well, give the keys back to Don't Nod. Let Don't Nod work on the IP." I'm like, what under Square Enix? What if Square Enix turns around to Michelle and says, Michelle comes up with a pitch and he's like, hey, I want to do this game with Chris Erickson. I think it's really cool. And he's pitched out the entire thing and they're like, no, we don't like Chris Erickson. We don't want that. And then he's like, oh, okay, I'll do it with Daniel Diaz. And it's like, no, Life is Strange 2 didn't really sell that well. And we don't really like the idea of doing it with another male character. Do it with Max. And he's like, I don't want to go back to Max. And they're like, do it with Max. What are you going to do then? And I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
like
one.
your expert says something, and then the CEO who doesn't know anything is like, no, I don't like that.
Exactly, but what can you do though? And that you've worked in corporate America, and I've worked in all kinds of jobs, and this is one thing that was that.
Said sadly.
um, but like you've worked in jobs where you work under someone or whatever else with it, and it's the one infuriating argument I always have with people when they're like, "Oh well, this would happen." This I'm like, sorry, are we forgetting about the elephant in the room here? I'm like, how can you like think this is so easy that like someone's just going to come in and make their own vision and shape the franchise? Like once a franchise is established, it makes its own pathway. And look at what Square's done with it. And the biggest example I can point to is look at the logo. Look at Life is Strange's logo and the evolution of that over time. And like as Christian Devine said to me on Twitter, the remastered font that they use. Look at the first Life is Strange logo and compare it to the new current one now. It looks so soulless. It looks like a Starbucks, poor Starbucks style logo. And it's like you just see that it's so artificially made and that there's no love from that franchise in terms of in the corporate like facade that it has. It's just like, as you will.
Yeah, let's take a look at the chat.
Yes, we are. So I'm going to go back into
There's
here.
Okay, I'll let you start from the top.
Oh, do you want to go?
Or wherever.
You can read it out if you want.
Well, there's some discussion here about whether Webb could go to Don't Nod.
Oh, I would love that.
Like, yeah, I mean that would be the dream, but it seems like they only hired local from Canada.
Guys, I'm saying this to you now. My dream is one day seeing the main man, Mr. Webb Pickersgill, in a photo with Luke Bagadost, Michelle Coe, and Erica Mori as the lead actress. Oh my god, my head would explode at that point. I'd be like, this game is going to be so cooked. It's unbelievable. So, like, that's my dream. I would love for Webb. I would love for Webb to work at like Don't Nod Montreal. I think he would fit in so good for them as well. I think Oscar Gilbert should be watching this podcast right now. I know he does in his room in his France office.
You know who else is watching right now?
Who?
Webb Pickersgill himself.
Is he? No, yeah. Oh, wow, he is there. Woo! We love you, Webb. I love you. Webb's put there. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the kind words, Adnan and Abby. Just got here a few minutes ago. I adore you, Webb. I really adore you. I hope you go and work at Don't Nod Montreal. They would love to have you there. I can put a word in. No, I wish you'd work there, and the motion capture would like it's that thing where I love Philip Bark's direction and the VO directing and stuff like that, but like even Don't Nod, like I just wish Don't Nod had the finances to kind of like uplift a motion capture studio, ground up like a proper one, and then put this man in charge of it. And imagine like that's the one thing missing from like Don't Nod's repertoire is the motion capture that is done on Life is Strange with Deck 9 because.
Sure, and it's serviceable.
Yeah, and of course it has. And even Don't Nod has done that with Don't Nod Montreal's done that. Look at the way that the Lost Records characters are designed. Like that entire Edward Kaplan Sundance-esque drawing style is gone because they have to reformat for the modern age as well. And that doesn't take away from Sam Bradley. He's incredible. I love his art as well. And the way that they've designed that team, that's what it is. And you can easily take those characters and make them mocap full performance capture. And that's where it just thrives with it. And I think that's what I want to see with like this. And it's like, it's the industry. It's so hard. Like I actually, funnily enough as well, I saw something on Twitter where someone was saying like, the Life is Strange during the stuff that's been announced by Titan as well. It's like, I think it's a Welcome to Caledon University book and also a Rosie 4 novel that's just been announced. And someone just responded saying, I'd love to buy these, but the economy. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's just so expensive, man.
And the other elephant in the room is the use of AI for motion capture, which
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies, especially smaller indie companies, are switching to.
Yeah. And that's horrible as well, because that's going to impact both actors, motion capture, everything else of it. I think like it could help the motion capture process. So
Yeah, it just looks bad. It doesn't look the same as a theatrical setting where, you know, people are in the space and interacting, and it doesn't have that same fluidity. So I don't know. I guess quality is just going to go down and down.
Yeah, well, because you can't. Ashley Birch did that in that interview when watched it. It was amazing when she was talking about it. She was like, an actor
Yeah.
can't have. She's like, Chloe Price can't have visceral reaction if it isn't from an actor. Because she's like, anyone, an AI could play Chloe Price, but it's how the actor is approaching that performance. So, for example, if you think about the scene when she acts the Rachel Amber's discovery of her body, that is
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
visceral emotion of trauma that she has herself from losing her former partner, and then also connecting with that into the story, and that's what you get the performance. AI can't do that. It can't feel things. It can't do it. It's going to manufacture something, and that's the problem. So it's like with double exposure, for example, and even True Colors, where Pickersgill is doing performance direction, he is evoking a reaction from his actors. So when you're seeing those performances, Jed's confrontation with Alex, the motion capture director is sitting there with the actors and leading that and getting the reaction out of it. And that's why the performance is, it comes across like that. So you need someone to really guide, handhold this entire performance and then take it from there. Because, like, in itself, let's just again reestablish this. The man that has just been laid off from Deck Nine basically made Hannah Telle deliver the best performance of her entire career. And she carried a game single handedly for a studio. And I think, like, her performance as Max in Life is Strange 1 is obviously amazing. I love that. But from an acting perspective, not even a single question in my mind that this performance is Hannah's best in the game. And I'm someone who will criticize double exposure. I'm talking from a pure acting standpoint. What Hannah Telle did, that is a testament to Hannah Telle and then also the performance direction on this game. And this is the issue. So this is another thing I think we talked about as well. And obviously Zach Andrews is a very, very talented motion capture director, very talented. And obviously, you don't work at Deck Nine unless Webb Pickersgill very much speaks to you and is like, this guy is going to do really well. And Zach did an amazing job on obviously The Expanse, but Zach's
Mhm.
repertoire is not Life is Strange. And I think you talked about the fact that you can see when Webb is doing something as a motion capture project and he's shooting something, and then you look at where the Expanse is, and the Expanse is tonally dark. It's meant to be more kind of like serious in its like approach. It's done in this kind of way. And then even Life is Strange, the Deck Nine direction of Life is Strange, it comes across in a respectful way, a bit slapstick sometimes, a bit musical, a bit kind of like, that awkward kind of like
Well,
cringe
because it
sense.
is, yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the directorial style, I think.
yeah. So it's like the minute that you make the next Life is Strange and you have Zach Andrews in the performance capture chair, it's going to look completely different because it's two different philosophies. It's really that you have to, and I say that from the perspective of like having dug into the performance direction, the mocap, the acting, everything about it. I can see. I'm gonna name names. I can see, for example, when Webb is working with an actor and he's either effortlessly working with an actor or he's yanking something out of them because he's like really trying to pull out the performance from them. And it's just from if you look at just the character and the way that they're acting in the scene, for me, that's quite obvious where it's like the performance director has to really pivot the style. And it's like the change in the approach of it. And I could see it every time I
Yeah.
ever watched his work. It was like you could see how True Colors came out, which was amazing. And Erica Mori got a BAFTA nomination. Han Soto got a BAFTA nomination. They were both nominated for the Game Awards. And then the other performance direction project that he did, Hannah Telle was nominated for a Game Awards and was sacrilegiously not nominated for BAFTA. Even if she didn't win it, she should have been nominated for it. And had the
Mhm.
story been a lot better for that game, had a lot of other things in the development team happen on that, she would have won something, or she would have like at least got a major honor from it because the performance was excellent from it. And again, that's the one thing that actually I think kind of like to really make the key point on this. The motion capture on Life is Strange was the constant. That was the one thing people came to the games and no one really batted an eye at the Deck Nine iterations, at least, like the from True Colors and Double Exposure. It was the one thing you necessarily couldn't really fault. Even the soundtracks, Double Exposure and True Colors have one or two little things here and there you can make, but the soundtracks were great. But the soundtrack and the motion capture were the two constants on Life is Strange. Even the last game, no one, I never saw someone say, "Oh, Webb Pickersgill made like a pig's dinner of this kind of thing of the scene." It was like, no one ever questioned the performance direction on it, and I was like, well, rightfully so, because it's not in the hands of the performance director at that point. The writing is, if the writing is the state of what it is, that is on the writer's responsibility. Um, and it's just a shame that we ended up here in this position. And I just like, I just feel so like annoyed and frustrated by this news because it's just not what was needed. Deck Nine has like put itself in this position, and it really has like put itself in this position. And I think that's in the sense of both mistakes and then also the climate, because I don't think they've adapted to the climate of what the game industry needed. They should really have like tapped into co-development service back in 2021 when they started making True Colors and got it out. It was like, this is where we really go forward with it. We've just got another performance director in. We have two performance directors. Let's really roll this out and get some momentum with it. And it's in the industry when people were making a lot of games and the budgets were fine, and yada yada yada. But yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, the zeitgeist was captured a little too late, and I want to point out what Lena Renee, I think her name was, said. What did
Yes.
she say? AI is only good for scenes that require no emotional nuance, which are few and far between in narrative adventure games, which is so true.
Yeah.
And I understand that not every studio who makes narrative adventure games has the budget for mocap in the same way that Life is Strange does, but it really does make the difference when you're
No, it
trying to
does.
convey that truth.
No, you're right. It does. It really does. Because like you can't. I, I would say Webb would probably say this as well. Same with Philip Bark. Anyone who's worked on the Life is Strange voiceovers, the motion capture and stuff, you can't elicit any reaction from an AI machine in a certain scene. You have to tap into the actor. You have to put them in a place where they're acting from that responsibility. Like no AI is going to do what Gonzalo Martin did in Life is Strange 2. And the only way it's going to happen is if Philip Bark tells him he's like a quote, like in a paraphrasing where you're a petulant child, you should go and sleep on the street and actually like live a day for an experience and see what your actual character's going through. And then it yields the results when your actor goes on to win a BAFTA. And in the category where he's up against Norman Reedus and Laura Bailey and among many other big names as well. And he comes out and absolutely takes that category apart. And most people wouldn't give him a cat's chance in hell for it. That's what happens. So it's completely that as well. Like AI can be used in motion capture and like their tech stuff and stuff, but it's only to help them. It's to help facilitate things. It's not to eliminate the actor or the motion capture director or the tech man. It's going to be something where you can help do something to support the acting process, but it's not something you can actually like just like roll out and be like, oh, that's going to be a fantastic way of doing things. Um, and this is why we end up in the results that we do. But I just think that the climate is really, really bad at the moment for a lot of studios, and I think Deck Nine is facing that as well. And then it's just not Deck Nine as well. I think like people should be really like, I'm very frightful of Life is Strange, of Deck Nine, of Don't Nod Montreal, of Lost Records, because the industry is so different right now. Trends have changed, people have changed. Even Life is Strange fans, you'd probably say that a lot of them are obviously millennial fans and they're in their 30s. What happens when people are in their 30s usually? They get married, they have kids, they don't play games as much, they forget about franchises, they become legacy franchises. When it's ultra niche as it is already, that's already impactful for you. So it's like with Life is Strange, the fan base has just dwindled over years and years and years. And what they did with the recent one with Double Exposure, they tried to target a Gen Z audience with like a lot of themes. It didn't work. They aggravated your millennial audience and they just like abandoned the series in a lot of ways. And it's like fantastic. And I think this is the thing where Don't Nod has not really tapped into that. They had a massive Life is Strange audience, and a lot of people have no idea Lost Records exists. I'll be genuine about that. The game saturation of the market is so much, and even Don't Nod says this as well. Every time Don't Nod says it in reports, like the game saturation is wild. I think that's when it's so easy to have a surface level conversation about anything that's happening at Don't Nod, at Deck Nine, or any other studio. And I think when you get into the in development processes of what's happening at the studios, it's quite frightening to see how like the developers are working and what they're working under and the constraints and the contracts and the publishers and everything else with it. Um, it's no easy task, and I think obviously it shows as well. Like Square Enix is bankrolling Deck Nine's Life is Strange games, and they're paying for that studio. That studio is not cheap. It's just not cheap, and that's like a, I imagine like they would want an even bigger motion capture studio, Deck Nine, like more facilities and stuff like that. But like they have an in-house motion capture studio that's been built there, and not many studios even have that. They go and hire out places. I just did my interview with Andrea, and she even talked about the fact that, and she says it again, like when they did their recordings in the Montreal motion capture studio. I can't remember what's the studio called now. I think I've got it here. Game on Post. I think they did it in Canada. It's like they hired that facility out, and it's like you're paying for it. So it's like chop chop
But they
chop.
brought
It's like
their in, correct? They didn't use contracted like directors or
no. So I mean, well, Philip Bark was a contractor. He doesn't work at Donut, so they're paying for that as well. So you're paying for the guy who is like I think he's Los
that's
Angeles based.
interesting. Yeah, because I would think someone really close, especially a former developer, um, you would want someone close to the game to be the director to not have that disconnect. But
Well, that's why they Philip Bark in there, because obviously Philip Bark worked on Life is Strange 1 and 2 with them, so he's very familiar with them, and he came into the project later, so he's come into the project, is working on them with it, but like he's like that familiar face, because otherwise they'll have to find a new director to do it, and there's no familiarity, so it's like Michelle might be there, Mary might be there, Luke will be there in the motion capture, the voiceover, but they're not necessarily, you know, doing something there. Like they're not leading the sessions essentially. They're just there and helping support it. But when you're hiring out the studio, it's like chop, chop, chop. Come on, let's go. And this is what happened with Square. Square had it with Life is Strange 1. It was like get in the booth, get out the booth, get in the booth, get out the booth, and they kept jumping actors in and out because you're recording, get out. Instead, when Deck Nine has its own facilities, it's like process. Let's get the development period done. We got a studio now. We don't have to worry about the finance. That obviously Deck Nine's financing that, but you still have to be like, we own the studio. We're not under constraints here, specifically in terms of paying for something as a renting service, and we can just go from there. And you have a bit more kind of like flexibility with it. But yeah, I think like it's quite somber, the entire situation.
yeah, take a look at chat. It's getting a little
Oh,
saucy.
what have we got in here? Is that Webb's thing there? Yes. Webb's put there, the game industry right now is absolutely brutal. It's not a fault of Deck Nine. At the end of the day, industry is evolving and it's chasing the money. Yeah. And Yokes,
Absolutely.
Webb, I appreciate what you have done while you're at Deck Nine. Look forward to what you do next. And then Blue Jay Samurai, I remember what grifter's name, I won't mention that, who told people not to buy the game like Assassin's Creed Shadows and Lost Records Boom Rage, but they went on and bought them. Yeah, it's not surprising. And Bulldog says, "Oh yeah, the market's absolutely brutal." Is like Webb is so on point with that. Like in itself as well. I think someone pointed out in the chat, Supermassive Games went through a layoff recently. Has just gone through a layoff, and Supermassive Games is known for making horror games, and horror games are one of the most appealing things for people. Yeah, of course it is. It's massive. Like they just announced a Hellraiser game. Saber Interactive are doing a Hellraiser game. That blew my mind. I was like, hang on a minute. I was dreaming wet dreams when I was a young kid, hoping for a Hellraiser game. And it's like we just got one now. It's a single player Hellraiser game. I'm like, this is amazing. But I can see why they're doing it because that's the industry trend. Get a horror game. Queso is going to stream it, or some other person is going to stream it. Jacksepticeye and like PewDiePie and a lot of people who followed Life is Strange and did those streams don't do that anymore. So Life is Strange struggles to get the wider appeal of like people streaming it, people who are prolific in the industry. Like the streamer genre
Well,
has
didn't
changed.
you guys stream Life is Strange?
Yeah,
Or Jacksepticeye,
yeah, both
one
of
of
them.
them? Yeah,
Both of them were the key part of that. Like they were both like I remember when streamed it, it was like, and they were part of the,
yeah.
because they were the big streamers at that point as well. Like it's now that's a trend that's changed. Like who's the big streamer now? Like is it anyone who's going to play Life is Strange? No, so that impacts the market. And is Queso going to play Life is Strange? Like he's not really going to do it unless he's doing it in a goofy kind of way, like in a joking kind of sense. And it's like he's going to focus on more on horror games, and a lot of the small niche horror games that are being made in Japan are getting massive exposure for things now at the minute in the market because people are streaming those. Because it's like, oh, we can do like reactions, and it's like scary and it's spooky, and it's like really rustic and charming and stuff like that. And it's like leaving things in kind of like the dead wood a little bit. Same with like Lost Records. Like Lost Records being a very slow build in the first tape is an immediate turn off for a streamer. Like they're not going to do it though, and that's why things change as well. It's like when people do like podcasts and they do like doing the intro clips, it's like 3 minutes of montage because they want people to get hooked into it and then start listening to it. Because if it's a slow
Sure.
burner, people will click off
But
it.
that's the case with marketing for anything. The trends change, but influencer marketing could have been utilized more like just getting influencers hyped around, the vibe of the game.
Well, they
Um,
tried it. Do you remember?
well, but
They,
clearly not successfully.
but it's again, it's the streamers that were doing it. So I think if you go and look at they had like a press event for Double Exposure, and they invited people down like London, and they played it and did a preview event, did the videos, and some quote unquote big prolific influencers, but again, niche prolific influencers. They're not the Jacksepticeye's. They're
Yeah,
not.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, why do you need streamers? Why not just draw in, like LGBTQ influencers or other
Well,
general influencers, cozy influencers?
well, there was that report from IGN saying where Square Enix's stance was on things, allegedly, very much from IGN's
Allegedly.
position, and Square Enix
Hmm.
denied those things. But I mean, like that's again the problem because in itself that's another thing because it's like when you said before that it has the kind of like the LGBT, the kind of woke narrative affected it, if you go fully down that route, then it alienates you even more, because then you go ultra niche, you appeal to one core audience, and then other people don't buy it, and that's again like another issue of it. So basically, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in the industry at the minute, and it's like you see it like constant
Yeah,
cycle,
sure.
layoff hit, layoff hit, and you see like one or two games have a success story, Balatro, Expedition 33, and it's like, but they're rare anomalies in a situation where it's like this has happened. So it's like Deck Nine is now currently on its knees, with what's next, and it's like I think like this is a sign where things go from here, and it's like it's just a horrible kind of position you put yourself in. Not necessarily just on Deck Nine's position. It's just more about you know the general industry's things. I know Webb is again in the chat, but it's like I'll say this about Webb is too nice to admit where I feel like he's been hard done, and it's my words. This I feel like he's been hard done by this position because he shouldn't have been like let go in this position because he already took a sacrifice by moving from motion capture performance director's chair to the co-dev service chair, and he's now being the sword has fallen on his neck, and it's not fair in that sense. But this is where we're at with the industry. It's just a really, really horrible industry at the minute, and it's like just not that kind of thing.
Yeah, lots of talented people falling on their own swords.
A lot of talented people, and when that happens, a lot of talented people.